Prayers.
Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner, to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country, and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our church. Amen.
Communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I convey to you a warm welcome as we return to this chamber to commence the third ordinary session of the National Assembly in the 2023 legislative year, since the adjournment of the previous ordinary session of the Assembly in June 2023. As we begin the third ordinary session of 2023, I express my profound gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our lives and for making it possible for us to interact once again in the service of our dear country and people. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to guide us through this session and beyond. Honorable members, may I recognize your tremendous efforts and commitment to duty, and to the clerk and staff of the National Assembly service for the usual support and guidance throughout the process. I urge all of us to keep up the momentum or even do better. Honorable members, there has been some concerns in the media and the public about the purchase of vehicles for Assembly members. I want to clarify once again that the purchase of the vehicles was done in a fair and transparent manner, following every due process. As an equal arm of the state, the necessity for these vehicles should be understood by everyone who wishes this assembly to function well. Beyond that, honorable members, in this creative scheme, the vehicles were not fully funded by government, but rather purchased on a 50-50 basis between the members and the National Assembly Authority. Honorable members, it is important to recognize that our parliament has traditionally been at a disadvantage since independence. To properly perform its functions and take its rightful place in our governance architecture, parliaments must be equipped with the necessary resources. The Assembly is committed to making this happen. At this juncture, honorable members, I wish to thank His Excellency the President of the Republic and the government and people of the Gambia for their understanding and cooperation throughout the process in ensuring that this assembly is efficient, effective, and independent in carrying out its functions. More particularly, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs and his staff. Honorable members, it is thus understandable today that some of the brilliant initiatives taken by the National Assembly Authority will receive backlash from the public. However, this assembly, being a democratic institution, takes note of all opinions and concerns being raised by the citizens. Indeed, honorable members, constructive public opinions are the most supreme means of accountability. Honorable members, the recent rains have triggered severe floods in certain parts of the country, devastating farmlands and properties. Part of this is also attributed to the adverse climate changes that we face as a planet, and there is therefore need for concerted efforts to address this phenomenon. In the short term, honorable members, there is need for our farmers to adopt smart agricultural mechanisms to ensure sustainability and acquire food self-sufficiency. We are in solidarity with our people on these unfortunate incidents and hope and pray that the government will investigate ways of addressing these problems. Honorable members, equally, the sub-region is witnessing the prevalence of military coups against constitutionally elected governments, grossly undermining the supreme will of citizens who have exercised their civil democratic political rights to put these governments into power. Coups, therefore, are not and should not be any means of changing governments. Honorable members, by way of update to this August Assembly, the Labour Act 2023 was passed during the second ordinary session of the National Assembly in the 2023 legislative year, that's on June 12th, and assented to by His Excellency the President of the Republic on June 23rd, 2023. Honorable members, as published in the order paper for today, the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, as provided for under Order 94.1 of the Standing Orders, will deliver his statement on the implementation and monitoring of the annual budget. The Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice will also present the first reading of a bill, while the Defense Minister will also move a motion for the consideration and ratification of this August Assembly as scheduled. Honorable members, the approved agenda for the ordinary session has been circulated to all stakeholders concerned. Finally, honorable members, I will urge honorable members to once again take note of the relevant provisions of the Constitution and Standing Orders of the National Assembly during this ordinary session. I thank you for your attention. Clerk, can we proceed?
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 22nd June 2023.
Honorable members, the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 22nd June 2023 is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved? Honorable Member for Sabak Sanjal.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 22nd June 2023 be corrected and approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any seconder, honorable members? Honorable member for Jokadu.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 22nd June 2023 be considered and approved. Honorable members, any corrections and observations may follow. I think we all have copies of the record of votes and proceedings. As usual, we will look through it page by page. And if members have any observations, just call our attention, beginning with page 1. But wait. Page 1. Jara Central.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. If you go to page 1, after the coat of arms, the top caption there, the 6th Assembly of the Second Republic 2023 legislative year, second ordinary session, votes and proceedings. It should be votes and proceedings. The proceeding there should carry S. And wherever it appears on the...
Honorable members, are you following? That's just on top of the page itself. The heading, 6th Assembly of the Second Republic, 2023 legislative year, second ordinary session, votes and the proceedings. S. Yes, honorable member. Pardon? Honorable member for Nyanija.
Wherever it appears.
And wherever it appears. Noted.
Page 1, right? 1.
Nyanija, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And Minister's reply, order 100. And the name of the health committee is not correctly captured. That should be checked. And let me just read.
Sorry, be clear. The name of the
committee. Let me read it. Roman 1, Minister's reply to the report of the Select Committee on Health, Disaster. The and after disaster should go off. You have humanitarian. You have a comma, humanitarian relief and refugees. Visit to some health centers, comma, regional health directorates and disaster hotspot areas across the country between 29 June to 6 July 2022, not 2023. Yeah. Then Roman 2.
Honorable member, let's clear that. Number 1. Roman 1 of number 4. The first line after disaster, the end should be out. The end. Disaster, comma, humanitarian relief and refugees. Visit to some health centers. It's not to Soma Health Center, but Soma.
Center.
Pardon?
The spelling for center.
The American and the English.
No, that one is not English. Center.
Yes, so some health centers, not Soma Health Center, but some health centers. And the center is TRES, huh?
Sorry. It is spelled as CANTR.
Okay, instead of CE is A.
Yep.
Some health centers, taking an S, isn't it?
Exactly.
Regional Directorate and disaster hotspot areas across the country between 29th June to 6 July 2022.
Exactly.
Not 2023. Noted. Can we continue?
Yeah, and the second one, and wherever it appears, and short, wherever it appears, because I know it has appeared inside again. Roman 2, that is the minister's reply again. That is the year. it's not October 2023, but 2022. Yeah, I think basically.
Roman 2, 17th to 25th October 20. Any more on page 1? Okay, we now move to page 2. Votes and proceedings, as usual, should be corrected on every page. Yes, member for Woodley East.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. If you look at on the motion, the second paragraph, where they say Sindai, is Sindai, and that is in many places. So be consistent. You've seen it.
Is Sindai. And wherever it occurs. Thank you, Honorable Member for Woodley East. Any more on page 2? We now move to page 3. On any more on page 3? We now move to page 4. Member for Woodley East.
Huh? Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, if you look at page 4, the last paragraph, the beginning, the paragraph on top of the names. First line, members ask questions. And wherever it is, we ask many questions. It's not just one question. Huh? You've seen that.
At the invitation of the Honorable Speaker, the following honorable members asked questions. The question should take S, isn't it? Yes, any more? Noted. Any more on page 4? We now move to page 5. Pardon?
Page 4, page 4.
On page 4? Is it page 4? Yes, Nyanija?
Speaker. The first paragraph, let me just read, probably it makes sense. Honorable Aliu Balde, that's the first paragraph, okay? Honorable Aliu Balde, member for Jara West, moved the motion and it was seconded by Honorable Alfonso Sise, member for Same, for the Assembly to consider and approve the record of votes and proceeding. Should it be of the sitting or for the sitting? I think it should be off, in my own thinking, instead of for.
That's the first paragraph you're talking, isn't it?
Nyanija, first paragraph. Am I right? Where is it? Approve the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly and proceedings for the sitting of the Assembly on Wednesday, 1st June. What is the problem?
The problem, instead of for, it should be of after proceedings.
Approve the record of votes and proceedings of the sitting of the Assembly. Let's have the taxpayers help us. It should be off, it should be for. Which one do we take? Huh? 4 is not wrong. It's not wrong. And off is not wrong. Which one is the most suitable? 4. So we leave it as it is. Okay? It's your minutes. Banjul North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just want to draw your attention to page 4, Roman figure 1. The Honorable Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, and wherever it appears. This will add the word arts after tourism.
By where you have by the Honorable Minister for Tourism and Culture. Huh? This is why you are now saying tourism, arts and culture. Okay. Honorable members, we now move to page 5. Honorable member for Joka.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just at the middle of the page 4, where you have minister's reply. At the end of the last sentence, where it says 17 to the 25th October 2023. I think it should be 2022. Thank you.
Where are you referencing? Number Roman 2?
2, yes.
Roman 2?
At the end.
Uh-huh.
We have 17 to the 25th October 2023. It should be 2022. Thank you.
Is it on page 4 or page 5?
4.
Ah, we are on page 5. Yeah. We corrected the 2022. 2023 should be 2022. Yeah, it's corrected. We note it down. Okay, thank you very much. And page 5, Banjul North.
Thank you once again, Honorable Speaker. Page 5, the following honorable members ask questions.
Point. Where?
That is the third paragraph.
Pardon? Third paragraph.
The third paragraph, yeah. The following honorable members ask question to the honorable minister.
Third paragraph, you start at the beginning.
Yes, at the invitation of the honorable
That's
speaker.
where people will follow you.
At the invitation of the honorable speaker, the honorable members ask question. The list of members that ask question. Number 3, Honorable Modula Minba. It should be member for Banjul North and not Brikama North, please.
Banjul North, not Brikama North. Thank you very much, Honorable. Any more on page 5? Page 6, that's the last page. Honorable Member for Sani Mentoring.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On page 6, right in the middle under the second line, which reads the permission of the Honorable Speaker, Honorable Fatoumata Njai, Member for Banjul South, move a motion for the Assembly to adjourn, sign and die without debate. There should be a hyphen between sign and die. Thank you.
Noted, Honorable Member. Any more on page 6? Yes, anybody? Yes, Woolly East.
Yes, thank you. I think at the second to last page where you say questions put, I think we only put one question put. You've seen it.
The last one, the bold letter, questions put and agreed to, it should be one question and therefore no S. On page 6,
Yes, here.
Honorable Gara Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, once again. And then I'm sorry to draw you back to page 5. The last paragraph. The last paragraph. At the invitation of the Honorable Speaker, the following honorable members asked questions. It's corrected, huh? Okay, thank you.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 22nd June 2023 be approved with amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk, can we continue?
Statement by Honorable Ministers, Order 94, Oral Ministerial Statement on the Implementation and Monitoring of the Annual Budget by the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs.
Honorable members, as per the provisions of Order 94.1 of the Standing Orders, the Vice President or a Minister with responsibility of finance shall at least once during each session make an oral statement to the National Assembly on the implementation and monitoring of the annual budget. Accordingly, the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs is scheduled today to deliver his statement to the Assembly. Honorable members, may I now invite the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs to take the podium and make his statement. Honorable Minister.
Good morning, honorable members, honorable Speaker and members of the esteemed members of the National Assembly, Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Honorable Minister of Defense, members of the press, all other protocols duly and respectively observed. This brief provides an explanation of how our budget has been managed and executed during the first half of the 2023 fiscal year. The brief highlights the key aspects of the budget, such as the revenue, expenses, and their variances. Additionally, it also includes an analysis of our performance against the budget targets. The report aims to offer an overview of government financial operations, allowing proper assessment of the effectiveness of the execution and management of the budget. It helps us to make informed decisions and take appropriate actions to ensure fiscal stability. The first high-level summary on figure 1 is an overall position of the budget, from the revenues to the expenditures and to the financing. This is presented in a tabular format for the sake of brevity, and it goes as follows. The budget for the first 6 months of the year, based on, it was estimated, the budget was 8.699 billion, and actual budget total came to be 8.59, leaving a variance of 339 million. And the components of those budget items are tax revenue, outperformed budget. Tax revenue was 6.968, while the budget for the period is 6.8. It's an outperformance of 139 million. Non-tax revenue was 1.3 billion against the budget for 1.8, which is a variance of 478 million. We had estimated a budget for program support, which is in the form of budget support of 1.48 billion. However, in the first half of the year, no program for budget support was realized, which is leading to a variance of the same magnitude. On the expenditure, total expenditure estimated for the first half, it was 12.7 billion. Actual expenditure came to 9.86 billion, leaving a savings of 2.8 billion. And the key components of that were, we budgeted 1.59 billion for debt interest, when we actually spent 1.295 billion. Other expenditure categories were 11.116 against an actual expenditure of 8.5, leaving a savings of 2.5 billion. And the key components there are as follows. Budgeted personnel was 2.8, actual turnouts to be 3.3 billion. Other current expenditure 5.8, actual 4.84 billion, savings of 1.7 billion. And the GLF capital expenditure 2.4 against 1.15. These are the highlights, and as a result, the estimated budget deficit of 2.5 was against an actual budget deficit of 1.5. Honorable Speaker and members of the National Assembly, the consolidated GLF revenue underperformed by 17% below budget as of end of June. And this underperformance is mainly caused by the non-realization of the budget support, which are now expected in the second half of the year, and the weak performance of the non-tax component of the revenue, which stands at 25.61% less than projected. The GLF expenditure during the review period stands at 9.8 billion, which is a 22.45 below the mid-year budget of 12.7. The cash allocation mechanism that we use dictates that expenditures are met from revenue generated as far as possible in order to reduce the need for borrowing, to reduce the amount needed for borrowing. This is mainly attributable to the GLF capital and order lower than budget as a result of that. Capital expenditure is expected to improve in the second half of the year as we begin to implement the second phase of the Baton-Harding Highway and the health and infrastructure projects, and we aim to improve the expenditure on the budget execution in the second half when the budget support revenues are expected to be realized. The second table gives the rundown of the revenue performance by the categories as indicated in the summary. Total revenue of 8.6 budget against 8.3, and the subsequent components are as follows. Tax revenue 6.9 against 6.8, which is an outperformance. Tax on wealth 2.4 was projected, we realized 2.1, and the various subsequent components thereof are personal tax 859 against 815, corporate and other income tax and other taxes, corporation tax 1.4 was budgeted, 1.2 was realized. On the indirect tax, we have, that's the indirect tax, 4.3 was budgeted, we realized 4.7, and domestic tax on goods and services, 1.7 was budgeted, however, we realized 1.3. Tax on international trade, 2.6 was budgeted, but 3.4 was realized, leading to an outperformance of 776 million. And the duty component were 1.5 budget against an actual of 1.7. VAT on imports, 1.1 billion against actual of 1.6, which is an actual outperformance of 586. In a summary, these are the highlights of the revenue performance. Honorable Speaker and members of the esteemed National Assembly, the consolidated revenue aspect, both tables analyze the sources of income and their performance against the mid-year budget. It is important to highlight that while we have achieved significant milestones in some types of taxes, such as tax on international trade and VAT and imports, there are certain sources of revenue that fell short of budget for the first half, including non-tax revenue and taxes on income and wealth. The first half year revenue performance overall is below budget due to the delay in the budget support from development partners. The activities on the prior actions, which are preconditions for the approval and disbursement of the budget support, flowed into the second half of the year. And as such, disbursement could not be made for the projected revenue in the first half of the year. Tax on income and wealth is below the expectation, with a total of 2.9 billion compared to a mid-year target of 2.44. The payroll tax performed better than expected at 48 million against 3.7 million in excess, which is 74 million in excess. Top revenue performance, tax on international trade. This revenue line has exceeded mid-year forecast by 29%. This success can be credited to the duty and the VAT on imports that have outperformed during the period. Duty collected amount to 1.72 billion, which is 190 million more than the budget of 1.53 mid-year target. VAT on imports of performance can be attributed to VAT on oil products, which have performed significantly over its 271 million estimate by 170%. Overall, indirect tax has been driving revenue performance, surpassing its target revenue of 4.39 billion. The success is attributed to the good performance on tax on international trade. We have seen for the first half tax revenues from international trade outperforming tax revenues on domestic operations. So, on the expenditure side, we've provided the highlights of the table, which total expenditure was projected to be 12.7 billion. Actual expenditure turned out to be 9.8, which is 7 or 2.8 billion. And the personnel emoluments was budgeted at 2.8, actual turned out to be 3.3. Other charges, estimated budget for this first half, 5.8 billion against 4 billion. And goods and services were budgeted at 1.4 billion against an actual of 1.6 billion. Subsidies and transfers were budgeted at 4.4 billion against 2.4. And interest was budgeted at 1.5 billion against an actual of 1.3 billion. Capital expenditures were budgeted at 2.4 billion against an actual of 1.1 billion. Honorable Speaker and members of the esteemed National Assembly, overall expenditure is within the budget for the first half of the year, standing relatively below the end June estimates. Total actual expenditure amount to 9.8 billion, while the targeted budget expenditure was 12.7 billion, which translates to a 22.45% less than budget. We have also identified the top performers.
Honorable Minister,
Yes.
can you raise your voice? I think the active people are.
We have also identified the top performers in terms of efficient expenditure management and cost savings measures. Expenditures on personnel emoluments and goods and services exceed their target by 513 million and 212 million respectively, representing a 17.8 and 15.3% above their respective targets. GLF, capital and subsidy transfers were below their budget targets by 52% and 45.36% respectively. However, it should be noted that the capital expenditure and subsidies respectively consume 45% and 49% of their annual budget target for the first half. Honorable Speaker and members, esteemed members of the National Assembly, in conclusion, the budget implementation during the first half of the year remains prudent. The overall actual revenue fell short of the budget by 1.83 billion, but this was offset by a lower actual expenditure than budget by 2.85, leading to a lower financing requirement than the budget of more than 2 billion. The cash allocation mechanism is an important tool that assists in the budget implementation process as expenditures were constrained by the revenue generated. Efforts were exerted to realize prior actions for the budget support, which is an important element of the revenue, and already significant milestones are realized in the second half of the year. Fiscal measures will be instituted to support a prudent budget implementation whilst making the much needed expenditure to support growth. With this, I conclude my brief. Honorable Speaker and members of the National Assembly, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, for your brilliant summation. Honorable members, pursuant to Order 48.6 of the Standing Orders, and I quote, after the statement has been delivered in the Assembly, a period of questions on the statement, which shall last no more than 1 hour, may then ensue. The Speaker shall determine the period taking into consideration the content of the statement, the number of members wishing to ask questions, and the pressure of other businesses of the House. With this, honorable members, may I now invite honorable members to ask questions relating to the minister's statement. I have a list with me. I now begin with the honorable member for Woodley East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, the report is saying the revenue underperformed by 17.91. And when you go down, you'll see which stands at 25.61. I'm just cutting it short. Less than the projection. And our experience is that in the early phase of the year, two months, 3 months. Many receipts are not ready. You go to pay, but they say the receipts are not ready. For example, vehicle licenses. What measures is your ministry thinking of implementing to ensure that this underperformance of the revenue is being minimized? Thank you.
You can go ahead, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member for Willie. Yes, the underperformance of the revenue performance in the first half was mainly attributed to the budget support. If you look at the numbers, the budget support was estimated at 1.4 billion, and no budget support was realized in the first half of the year. And as we explained in the brief statement, budget support is contingent on prior actions being taken. And those prior actions are sectorally based, broad-based, and some of the prior actions would not be concluded in the first half. But I can report to the August Assembly that some of those prior actions were realized, and as we speak, we received 2 million euros from AFD, Agence Française de Développement, and we have concluded the prior action for the African Development Bank, which is expected to bring in $7 million. Also, prior actions for the World Bank amounting to 4.5 million have also been realized, and those revenues will fall in. As we speak, as of last week, a World Bank mission was in country to follow up on the prior actions, and we are at the advanced stage of finalizing that. For the EU budget support, the prior action was a costed NDP, and the NDP costing is already ongoing. So we hope we'll conclude those. And those are the major drivers of the underperformance in the first half. Yes, in terms of the non-availability of receipts, that has been noted. That's why we've seen the underperformance of the domestic taxes. We are working on the digitalization, and we hope that will address that gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I now invite the Honorable Member for Latrikunda Sabiji.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My first question, I don't know, each member should ask how many questions because I have 5 questions. What? 1 question each? Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for your presentation, and I commend you for imposing the travel ban. I'm still appealing if you can impose it further to the lifespan of the government till 2026, December. My question is, you mentioned in your second to last page, overall budget expenditure is within the budget for the first half of the year, standing relatively below their end June estimates. Total actual expenditure amounts to 9.8 billion, while the targeted budget expenditure was 12.7 billion. This translates to 22.45% less than the budget. Now, my question is, are you being frugal, or there is no money? Because there are ministries that doesn't have their cash allocations for the past 2 months. So if your expenditure is less than the actual disbursement, I want you to explain to the National Assembly what is happening. Are you being frugal with your expenditure, or there is no money? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Latrikunda. When it comes to, as I have mentioned, even though a budget is a plan and we have a cash allocation mechanism, we can only allocate so much cash as revenue generated. If we want to go by budget, by only allocating budgets, we'll be busting and there'll be a lot of debts. So it's prudence that's dictating our allocation mechanism. It is not our wish to constrain the sectors, but fiscal prudence requires so, and that's what we are doing. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Okay. Speaker, your mic. It's all right. Okay. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for this update. I want to inquire whether actually, as you rightly alluded to, by the budget performance, which was shortfall by 17.9, and this is expected in the second quarter, second half of the year. Do you have an alternative plan if this does not materialize with regards to the support that is coming in? And the other aspect, you're talking about the non-tax component of the revenue, that is not forthcoming. And I know all the budgeting was done as per the total budget approved. As far as these things are not fully materialized, we will continue to be constraining the ministries with regards to the allocation. So do you have an extra plan to take care of both the support and that of the non-tax revenue generation component of it? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Member for Brikama South. Yes, we are aware of the non-tax revenue shortfall being a big constraint on expenditure. We are also working on many fronts to emphasize domestic resource mobilization. As we speak, measures are going on to really roll out the payment of rental income tax. As we know, the rental income tax is a tax that should be paid, but we realize that implementation of that has been lagging. So we are working with GRA, and for the information of the August Assembly, GRA has now dedicated a full unit to follow up on the rental income tax. As we speak, they are now doing the registration of the properties that are entitled to pay rental income tax, and measures are taken to make sure that kicks into effect. On the budget support, I have already mentioned the actions taken, and it is our plan that once these come into play, the rest of the second half of the year will witness increased expenditure execution. But as I have mentioned, the overhanging debt constraint will be a big limiting factor. We cannot spend as expected in the budget when the requisite revenue is not in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Honorable Minority Leader and the Member for Brikama North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I believe part of my question has been answered when the Honorable Minister was responding to question from the member for Woolly East and that of Brikama South. However, if I may add just a portion regarding the underperformance of the budget and then the constraint in the budget support, even whereas optimistic is high in the second half. Whether that will realize or not is something. In the event for contingency, does the ministry has any plan to review the budget or bring in supplementary budget as contingency measure in order to avert failure if so happens that the budget support may not be forthcoming?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Brikama North and Minority Leader. As we speak, we have completed the first half, and our budget execution rate is at a level that we do not believe we may have cause to come to revise the budget. We are optimistic that the budget support will be forthcoming, But in the event, as any planning entails, that does not fall in, measures are in place to ensure that the expenditures are constrained to support the execution of the revenue generated. The revenue generated will support, because this is, these are the major issues when you are implementing a budget. You look at the headline, and you look at fiscal measures you can put in place so that non-essential elements will be constrained without deterring the execution of the major elements of the budget implementation. And it was in this direction that we believe the measures taken on travels, and it's not only travels, there are other efficiency measures that we are working on, and those are at advanced stages to ensure we rationalize expenditures as to the furthest extent possible in line with the revenue generation. But I think it's not just about revenue, expenses. The issue is to enhance the revenue performance, and the focus should be on domestic resource mobilization. The tax compliance rate in the country is very low, and every effort is made to deter that or to not encourage full compliance with the tax laws. That is why we have established a Directorate of Taxes and Revenue, specifically in the ministry, to enhance and support the GRA in the compliance drive. We've seen significant gains in this direction. One of them is the overall review of the tax expenditure on duties, which is constrained, as well as measures to ensure that tax compliance, particularly by corporation taxpayers, are adhered to. So we believe the opportunity lies in domestic resource mobilization and growing the top line, which is the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Honorable Member for Opanyumi.
Part of my question has been answered by the Honorable Minister, so I decline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Honorable Member for Upper Salu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for being really making difficult decisions in the fiscal prudence, which is necessary. Now, going by the figures you actually have shown, it's very clear that you are trying to spend what you have. And the differences in the budget, in the revenue budget, was as a result of your inability to get the budget support, which actually has some other components that we have to meet. This actually pointing that we need to do more domestic revenue mobilization so that we cannot depend on this budget support. So what short-term strategies as well as long-term strategies do you actually have to ensure we improve domestic revenue mobilization? Even though you've already mentioned one, which is the, creating that kind of office. So what do we really have now in the short term and also thinking in the long term to improve our domestic revenue mobilization? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Upper Salu. I think this is the key to the overall economic development of the country. We have embarked on a number of areas in the short to medium term. One, we've already identified, this is the creation of the budget tax and revenue directorate. But the other element, which is the elephant in the room, is the state-owned enterprises. The state-owned enterprises' total assets comprise about 34 billion. These have not been paying any dividend to government, except last year when we received 95 million from ports and 8 million from GNPC. The efforts we put in place was largely a success through the support of this August Assembly last year when you ratified the state-owned enterprise bill. That bill is now in motion, and the commissioners have been identified. Likely this week, they will be put to work. And the overall efficiency of the state-owned enterprise is central to the national development, because these are investments, these are enterprises that should be performing, that should give revenue to the government, because the model for the state-owned enterprise is they operate on market principles, they are paid market rate, their terms and conditions are away from the civil service with the aim of delivering market performance. But this has not been the case. That is why a performance contract has been signed with a number of them. I think as we speak, 6 performance contracts have been signed, and we are on course to sign additional performance contract before the end of the year to enhance their financial performance. We believe if these state-owned enterprises perform, their contributor to the central pot should increase, and that will help in our domestic resource mobilization. That's one front. The other front is the tax compliance rate. The tax compliance rate in the country is very low. As only taxes that are compulsory, that's why you could see it is only those taxes that cannot be avoided that have performed the most. That's international trade. Because in international trade, you must pay the taxes. And the digitalization efforts we've introduced there are yielding fruits. The Escuda wall is being rolled out across all the borders. And as you know, Judiciary is working very hard on those. But now the next step is domestic taxes. If you look at, we discovered even for some enterprises, they deduct withholding tax and have not been remitting to the GRA. Some have been collecting VAT and their compliance rate is low. The rental income I have talked about. So revenue is the key driver of the economy, and we are working hard to make sure that we work closely with the GRA and maximize the domestic revenue mobilization. These are some of the medium to short-term strategies we put in place. But overall, I think in the next year, the fiscal measures to entrench these reforms will be in the expected next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Honorable Member for Central Badibu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, this information is really threatening, and it shows that the economy is really sinking. Honorable Minister, pertaining to personal emoluments and goods and services, can you buttress on it? What measures do you have to ensure that these areas are really addressed and the goods and services can boost something into the economy?
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much, and Honorable Member of Central Badibu. I appreciate your feedback, but I hereby explain that no, the situation is not as dire as you are putting it. In fact, our revenue performance in the first half of this year is better than that of last year. In the first half of last year, revenue realized was 7.9 against 8.4 currently. It's true that the expenditure base has increased. Measures are taken to introduce fiscal discipline, but that's what it takes to manage an economy. And the challenges we are going through is not unique to Gambia. If you look at the sub-region, you look at the world, everywhere, these are challenges and pressures every country, every government is going through. We're pleased to inform the National Assembly that as challenging as they are, cost pressures are there, but the requisite measures are always applied to match the challenges on the revenue side. That's why you see the move by the executive to curtail travels, which we believe are not mission critical. And it is not all rosy, but these are what the times call for. And what we are doing is not unique to Gambia. Thank you.
I now invite the Honorable Member for Combo South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, thank you for fulfilling the requirement. I want to make an appeal. Please, next time when you are presenting the report, the tables are very important. You need to improve the font size, and I think your ministry should be generous enough to provide clean copies for all the members instead of bringing in photocopies, because some of the photocopying are not clear, and these are important documents that we need to make reference to. Honorable Speaker, the Minister, you have talked about a lot about non-compliance of tax collection, especially the domestic tax. What strategies are you putting in place to make sure that you go after
the big non-tax compliance companies in the country, because this is something that is impinging on our performance.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Combo South. Point noted, for future, we will provide a page for each table. We apologize because sometimes you look at things from your perspective, that some members will struggle to read the tables, but that's noted. Yes, on the big taxpayers, efforts are afoot. We have actually done a lot of work in this area, and we have identified a number of light taxpayers, also eligible taxpayers, and are currently putting in measures to ensure that compliance rate. One such measures we are working on is to ensure that anybody or any institution applying for a duty waiver, going forward, your tax compliance status will be the first question to ask. That any enterprise that is requesting any services from the government, tax compliance will be a key parameter to ensure that that is fulfilled. The second element is to look at the tax payer database. That's why we have engaged and obtained support from the World Bank to introduce a digital tax-based platform. Procurement of this software solution is afoot, and as soon as this tax system is rolled out, we will believe that the compliance rate will go up. And you are spot on, some of the large taxpayers have been found wanting, measures have been taken, and discussions are afoot to make sure that they come on board. But we have noted and taken the appropriate actions already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Honorable Majority Leader and Member for Kantora.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think with my little knowledge in mathematics, the briefing or the presentation or statement really expose or try to explain as a country we are in the right direction. And of course, if you go to your overall expenditure, it speaks in tandem with the policy of the travel ban. Haven't seen an upsurge in the personnel emoluments expenditure, which really exceeds target. It's a good decision. I won't say that my question is that the overall tax, indirect tax, has been driven by the surpassing
Point
target.
of observation, it's not a debate.
Not debating.
We are on question, please.
I'm not debating. On the international trade, you've given us that it has really performed, and that performance has really yielded to 4.3 billion. What do you have of measures in place for us to really exploit this area so that we can really have much more trade in our country as a nation, so that our revenue base could be advanced? This is really welcoming, seeing an increase in international trade and getting us much resources we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Kantora and Majority Leader. Yes, we took notice, but this performance is on the backdrop of reforms in this area. If you look at international trade, these are the first areas of reforms that we've instituted. Last year's launching of the Ascuda Wall has really digitalized operations for international tax revenue collection. And we are not resting on our rollers. We are rolling this out to the borders, and the GRA is putting in measures to ensure that the digitalization of all border tax operations is in place, and additional measures are also taken in place. We are working hard to leverage on the gains and the experience learned, and we're sure we want to export this experience in our domestic taxes. This is why we are working on digitalizing the domestic tax collection. GRA is now at the very initial phase of having a database of rental income, also compliance with the pay-as-you-earn deductions, VAT are all afoot, and the most logical approach is to digitalize these operations. These are the efforts we are putting in place, and we hope when they perform, the priority for the government is to ensure that domestic resources mobilization is at the anchor of our economic strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the honorable member for Kian West.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, could remember in the budget 2022, we have a budget amount of 31 billion, and to 2023, we have an estimate of 35 billion. And the question was this really realistic? We revised the budget in 2022 looking at 31 billion, and we are increasing significantly to 35 billion. Is this really realistic? The answer was yes, it's on record. And part of the reasons that you have given, the reason why the budget in 2022 was revised was that the international commitment was not forthcoming, and here it has appeared again. And in your conclusion, also part of the reason that we had revised the budget in 2022, in conclusion you said the cash allocation mechanism is an important tool that assisted in the budget implementation process. And expenditures were constrained by the revenue generated. And this was also one of the reasons the budget was revised in 2022. Are you telling us that there are possibilities to revise a budget again in 2023 after defending that that budget was realistic? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First, a bit of background. The 2022 budget revision was premised on the non-realization of budget support, simply because those budget supports were items that were not already agreed with the development partners at the time. One budget support was ADB, and as for 2022, ADB had no budget program for support for the country. That was the explanation to suffice that. The 35 billion you are quoting is for all funds. The brief that we are presenting is on GLF funds alone. And the third element is, yes, we revised the budget 2022 to redirect all the charges to the personnel emolument to support the salary review. Those were the previous on that. Yes, we said it was realistic, and we are still confident that what we did for 2023 is realistic because we have crossed the milestones on the budget support. As I have briefed the esteemed General Assembly, August Assembly, that already we received 2 billion from AFD, Agence Française de Développement. We have realized we have received $500,000 from the World Bank. Another 4 million budget support prior actions have been met. The prior actions for the ADB has been met. And
Honorable Minister, $4 million?
No, dollars. The amount I'm quoting for budget support are in dollars. Agence Française de Développement has given 2 million euros as budget support, which came in July. July is outside the reporting period. That's why it's not covered. A 500,000 budget support from the performance-linked disbursement for this public financial management program has been received. 4 million prior actions have been also completed. We are on course to receive that. The budget support triggers or the prior action for the ADB for $7 million have also been completed. The two outstanding budget support items are from the EU, which is 13 million euros, and the budget support trigger there is a costed NDP, and the costing process is at advanced stage. And for the World Bank, we have met, out of the 8, we have met already more than 4 of them, and we are on course to complete them before the end of the year. So budget is a plan. It's just like any pilot. You file your flight plans, but actual may be deviating. That's why we are here to brief the August Assembly about the execution of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the honorable nominated member, Kewa Lamfofana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I equally want to thank the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs for the presentation of the mid-year budget execution for 2023 in fulfilling your constitutional mandate. Honorable Speaker, from the presentation, it is evident that expenditures can be controlled, because you can realize that you've been able to curtail the expenses by over $2.8 billion. But on the other hand, if you look at the consolidated revenue aspect, you realize that there was a shortfall of what? 1.8 billion. So my initial question have already been answered, because I was going to ask the shortfall, because you've been able to reduce the deficit again by 1.3 billion, which definitely is commendable. You know, I was going to ask whether you had any challenges in it. Does it affect their performance or efficiency? But basically, the answers you provided is the allocations are based on what is received. So my question would be, in future presentations, do we have plans to transcend beyond providing the physical figures to the level that will really present them in accordance with set targets, so that A, it will help the National Assembly in our budget preparations? Because if you look at the actual budget performance, we are saying over 8.6 billion have been expended. So the set targets, what have we realized? What are the variances, not only in figures, but with regards to what? The outcomes. This will also help us in our functions. Like very soon we will have the budget session. So provided in the mid-year review, when the report is coming, the targets and the variances will not be only limited in their monetary equivalence, but it will also include their physical equivalence as well. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Nominated Member. A very notable observation. However, this will be possible if we are following a nationally program-based budget or activities-based budgeting, where the numbers are linked to the activities. As we speak right now, that is a work in progress. We are not yet there. And the best authority to deliver on the implementation of the activities are the sectors themselves. The Minister of Finance can only collate figures relating to the execution. But in terms of the activities, that is best left to the sectors. And we'll be more than happy to collate the sector's contribution as to the implementation of their activities for future, if possible. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Oluyundum constituency. For Busumbala.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for adopting measures for physical discipline. Honorable Minister, in your brief, you did tell us the first half of the revenue performance overall is below the budget due to delay in receipt of budget support from development partners. And you went ahead to make mention of preconditions that need to be satisfied and that lead to this delay. What are these preconditions, and whether they will not persist themselves in fulfillment of the second half of the year? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Busumbala. Yes, this is a very good question, because every budget support is linked to prior actions. And these prior actions are a set of reforms that the development partners will agree with the government. And these reforms are geared towards building our institutional capability. As such, they are multi-sectoral. Each donor has a set of prior conditions. Like, for example, the budget support trigger for the EU was a fully costed NDP. And as we know, the NDP was approved, but the costing was not done. So the EU is saying if you want us to receive our budget support, you should quantify your budget NDP, which is an important set of reform that we need to embark on, because if you have a national development plan, you need to know the quantum of funds required to deploy that plan. So those are the reforms entrenched in each budget support. For example, in the budget support trigger prior actions of the World Bank, one of them is the rolling out of the regulations for the new procurement bill, which was passed last year. But of course, you have a lot of actions that these prior actions will require. We have, at the GPPA level, completed the development of the regulations, but as you know, you need to go to validation 1, validation 2. For each validation means bringing on wider stakeholders, having a retreat. So some of these actions do take time. And as such, these activities overflow to the second year. These are the prior actions. For each development partner, the prior actions are agreed with the government to address a set of reform agenda that will support the institutional strengthening of the government. But of course, it's not within, these prior actions are not within the Ministry of Finance alone, but are across the government mechanism. And like I explained, if you want to roll out the approved regulations for the GPPA bill of act, we cannot sit at the GPPA, conclude the regulation and pass it. The process would be that you finalize the regulation, you call for a first validation, you call for a second validation, you incorporate the feedback in a participatory process. So this was it. But we are sure we will meet most of them, and we are hopeful to realize them. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Honorable Member for Bakau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, in your own words, you've indicated that the payroll tax performed better than expected at GMD 48.33 million, which is GMD 3.74 million in excess. Can we share your thoughts? How is this possible?
Thank you. This is supported by activities of the Immigration Department, because the payroll tax is mainly related to expatriates. As we have seen, the Immigration Department collected more revenue in the first half of this year than the entire last year. So when you have efficiencies at a sector that is in charge of this, these are the type of outcome you expect. Thank you.
Now I invite the Honorable Member for Fonyi Kansala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I thank the Honorable Minister of Finance. As per Honorable Minister, in your cash allocation strategy or measure, we realize with interaction, some of the institutions do complain of a lower percentage of their cash allocation, and you have a plan in your cash allocation. Can you help us, mechanisms to be put in place to avoid some of those crimes of those institutions? What, as a ministry, in that cash allocation process, because looking at the cognizance, and also what impact would those crime ministries also face in those low allocations? Thank you.
Yes, I must hasten. Oh, thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Fonyi Kansala. I must hasten to explain that the cash allocation is a desperate measure. Naturally, if we generate the revenue as budgeted, there should be no need for cash allocation. Everybody should be able to spend as approved. But if the revenues are not forthcoming as much as they were expected, you will be compelled to use the cash allocation to only allocate cash for which revenue has been generated. The other option is to disregard that and just allocate. But what will happen? You'll be continuing to borrow more. And when you borrow, you'll have to pay more because the interest rates have moved from 9% up to now 17%. And this will be funded. So it's a vicious circle. That's why fiscal discipline is required. The best strategy for this is to ensure we maximize revenue. If revenue is generated, there'll be no constraint on cash allocation. We have no any desire as a ministry to constrain a sector because of cash allocation. In fact, the implication on this is going to constrain the sectors to develop their activities and programs for which the budget has been designed. So it is not in our interest. And one way to grow an economy is to enhance government expenditure. But that government expenditure should be fully funded. Otherwise, it gives rise to inflation and other adverse economic outcomes. We are aware of the constraints on the sectors, but these are necessary fiscal measures you have to put in place. We wish the revenue is generated to a level where the equal amount of revenue and expenditures as in the approved budget is realized, so that there'll be no need for cash allocation. Sectors can spend as was allocated to them or appropriated to them by the National Assembly. But we are aware of that. This best solution is domestic resource mobilization, grow the revenue size so that sectors can spend and implement their programs as they plan. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Lower Badibu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you did mention that you did face a lot of difficulties in tax collection. Though part of my question has been answered, but I want you to throw more light on this. That is, whether big companies in this country are paying their tax as required by the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member for Lower Badibu. Yes, as we have said, it was in our review that we noticed that, and also numbers, as they say, numbers are always there to justify the results. We noticed that the domestic tax collection is performing below their full weight. To that extent, that caused us to really drill down and understand the underlying conditions. And as I have mentioned, we came across instances where some enterprises have been deducting withholding tax and either delayed or not remitting it to the GRA. One, sales tax compliance rate. And one very important thing is the pay as you earn. Every employee is supposed to pay income tax. And this income tax is supposed to be collected by their employers. It is their employers that should remit this. As we speak, we are yet to see full compliance on this, and we have already started work to triangulate the data between the Social Security, GRA, and the Ministry of Finance to ensure that all employers who deduct income tax from their staff promptly remit it to the GRA. So these are some of the measures we have put in place to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Shami.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for the mid-year budget execution brief 2023. Honorable Minister, it seems the ministry has increased the domestic borrowing so as to minimize departments to do the disbursement. So, what happened to the domestic borrowing strategy?
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Sami. Actually, we have borrowed less than we were expected to. That's what the numbers show. Because revenue fell short of expectation, expenditure fell further short than the revenue. That's why you will see we were supposed to borrow a larger amount, but we borrowed 2 billion less. So that's it. It's of course on the back of increase of the prior years. Overall, it's an increase, but the increase is less than what was supposed to have happened if we fully implement the expenditures. Yes, thank you.
Honorable Member for Lower Salum.
Honorable, I withdraw.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Joshua.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much, and also to commend you on the measures taken to put a ban on the traveling expenditures, which we are saying thank you and keep it up. Honorable Minister, part of my question was asked, but I will still put up a follow-up question on it, on regards to the performance and then the support on the budget support that we always expect from the outside world. I know there are conditions attached, and then most of it we are working on it to see how best you can fulfill those conditions. During your budget preparation, Honorable Minister, are there any plans to move to plan ahead before time? Because if you plan ahead, the moment you indicate that we want support on A, B, C, and D, and we plan ahead before time, I think with regards to all these delays that we normally have, it might reduce this delay. Is there any plan in planning ahead before time?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Joshua. Yes, regarding to the budget support, it's cyclical because in addition to meeting the prior actions, each of the MDBs will take the budget support to their board. So sometimes the realization of the budget support is dictated by the budget calendar, the board calendar of those MDBs. So like last year, we received the budget support from the World Bank in 2 tranches. The first amount was received in June, and the second amount was December. So we are cognizant of the nature of the prior actions, but because some of the prior actions are so sectorally diverse, its coordination is needing to be improved, but we are sure that we'll take leave of this and engage the partners to understand precisely their board calendars so as to put the expenditure in the right time buckets. Because for some of them, in addition to meeting the prior actions, all budget support operations are required to go to their board, and as such, the approval decisions are contingent on their board calendars. This is the outcome of the consultations we have had with them. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Combo East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I first thank the Honorable Minister for giving an update. Honorable Minister, Speaker, I will put this thing before the Honorable Minister. Domestic tax mobilization is a concern, and these are things that has something to do in the day-to-day running of our our expenditures. And in doing so, we've detected that there are some tax lapses in the domestic tax mobilization. And as in the tax brackets, corporate tax payers and the other taxpayers, the brackets, the variance of the brackets means there is an increase of these tax rates annually to give us a focus of our budget in tax mobilization. But in actual, it's like the volunteerism that the taxpayers do because of this price and the amount of taxes that they are due to be paying, sometimes make them to run away from those taxes to understate their incomes to make sure that they pay less in the expense of our own operations. Now, is your ministry working on strategies to make sure that these costing of taxes are being considered to make sure that everyone volunteers to come forward to pay taxes duly?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Combo East. Your question is spot on. We noticed that ourselves, and we observed that some of the tax filings, the financial statements thereto, do not speak to the activities. So to that extent, we have engaged the Financial Reporting Oversight Board and held meetings with them to ensure that the companies, in preparing their financial statement, will present a realistic and true and fair view of the state of their affairs. Financial Reporting Oversight Board has taken this on board. We believe we should see enhanced quality financial reporting that will ensure that the enterprises report the true financial positions of their performance. Also, GRA has started work to enhance the compliance And we at the ministry too are working. And as we speak, we have identified some of the large taxpayers whom we have consulted. And for sometimes it's one of interpretation of the rules. For some, as you know, any person that is a subject of tax payment may invoke tax planning techniques. And we realize that some of the techniques are a stretch of the law, particularly when it comes to implementing donor-funded projects. These have been noted and action is taken accordingly. Thank you.
I now invite the Honorable Member for Fonyi Jaro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I can definitely recognize the tireless effort of your office, especially during budget period. Just it's unfortunate during the budget period, sometimes when we make cuts, ministers, finance directors, or accountants, they are not happy. But now again, despite that, with all what we have approved, last time I seized that opportunity to visit institutions, and then so far, most of the institutions, this was in July, most of them, there's no institution that even informed me that so far, according to what they have budgeted or requested, they received less than 30,000, 2015. A minister even said it here during the questions and answer period, that his endorsements, disbursement so far is even less than 20%. And then sometimes I think it's unfair if we continue blaming ministers or head of institutions for poor services when they are saying that their requests are never met. So you've answered part of my concerns, but definitely it's a worrying thing. So when they are demanding, we're making cuts, they are not happy. What is even approved, they are telling us that they even receive less than 20%. I don't know, what are your plans to address this?
Thank you very much. Yes, this is a dichotomy because in as much as a budget is approved, protocols. Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Fonyi Jarol. This is the dichotomy in the sense that as much as a budget is approved, the cash allocation mechanism is geared towards constraining how much the government can spend, but in the extent that you don't overborrow to spend. The logical argument will be we just spend without cognizance to revenue, but that has long-term financial implications. It will mean we will borrow more, our debt stock will grow, and interest expense will continue to rise because when you borrow, you pay. And it's worth noting that even if you look at this year, the debt service comprised one of the largest expenditure categories. So and these are mandatory expenses. When we are allocating to sectors, we allocate to them in a manner and way that the essential core services will be delivered. But that's why now we are looking at a broader set of reforms, such as the suspension of travels and other elements that we are also working on, which are not across the country wide, but specific measures we are taking to contain expenses. The most important rule of thumb in budget execution is prudence. Don't spend more than you earn. If you do so, you put your country on due debt burden, and that will continue to haunt. So we are aware, and were it not for the timing difference in terms of non-realization of the budget support in the first half, we believe the situation would not have happened as it has happened. But certainly this is noted. That is why it's a national duty for all to focus on domestic resource mobilization. It's more sustainable, it's more lasting, and that's where growth is coming from. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Basse.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the Honorable Minister for Finance. Yes, Honorable Minister of Finance, you do say for the shortfall in when it comes to revenue collections, it was as some of the institutions were not forthcoming to pay their dues and others were withholding their taxes for their staffs. But again, do you realize there were some shortfalls which are caused by internal staffs within institutions, who some of them are undercharging and others are putting it into their own personal use? Because we realize some institutions will go to these tax offices to pay their taxes, and staffs will undercharge them for own personal gains. And at times, some of those taxes are not going to the national revenue. It's going to their own personal use. Is there any mechanism, or whether you realize it, and there is any mechanism for you to address such issues that will also help us in maximizing or realizing this tax increase?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Basse. Yes, in any system, there will be flaws, there will be lapses, and we are aware. But the long-term solution for this is digitalization. That is why we have embarked on rolling out an IT platform that will focus on the domestic tax collection, that is the ITAS. The procurement is advanced stage, and very soon the contract will be awarded. And we believe once that is rolled out, we hope to see a similar performance as has happened for the international trade. As you know now, there is very limited room for international trade tax payment. Compliance has improved with the launch of the OSCUDA, and OSCUDA being rolled out to the borders also have helped. So we believe the way forward is to digitalize so that the human interaction will be limited. Because now with the OSCUDA, you can sit in your office, you pay without even going to the office of the GRA. This is the same mechanism we want to roll out, and the actions are already in place. So we believe once the digitalization of the domestic taxes take effect, we hope to see improved compliance in this area. But your observations are noted and actions are afoot to address them. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Fonyi Bintang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Minister of Finance, your ministry is the sole custodian of forecasting. As we know, budget is a forecast. But we realize that your forecast is wrong as a ministry in most of this case. By looking at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, from January up to date, 23%, now it may go up to 24% of the budget disbursement. Now, we are in the 9th month. For the fact that we are in the 9th month, we are only left with 3 months. And now only 24% of the money, 24% of the allocation we are able to have. So when will the other 76% of the allocation come? And at the end of the day, when they could not have the 100% allocation, it handicaps the ministry. Not only does it handicap the ministry, but then come 2024 budget allocation, your ministry will come with the fact that they could not exhaust their budget. You understand? And then their budget also will be cut. So this is something that actually is handicapping the ministry. So for the fact that your ministry is responsible for forecasting, and if your ministry forecasts wrongly, it handicaps the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Member for Bintang. Yes, you rightly mentioned it, budget is a forecast. But this forecast is not done in isolation. That is what they call bilaterals, and the ministries sit with all the sectors to discuss. So for your information, the Ministry of Basic Education is the second highest budget execution. We have spent in the first half of this year 1.89 billion to the sector. So it is not correct, 1.89 billion to the sector. Ministry of Basic Education, because the percentage is 16%. So this is on the backdrop of some of the expenditure categories in terms of execution of capital projects. And the Ministry of Education is as important as any other ministry. So allocation decisions are put in that context. We have made sure that all their essential elements have been spent. I remember we have, even in the month of July, spent additional amount of more than 85 million, which is not included here in the element of expeditious disbursement of the SIG and school textbooks and grants. So the numbers speak for themselves, but the Ministry of Education is like any other ministry. They are all subject to the budget constraints that everybody is witnessing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I have tried to capture to ensure that every member who wants to pose questions did so, to an extent that I had to give extra minutes so that every member is able to express his concerns or ask questions. But let me, on your behalf, thank the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs for his detailed, well thought out delivery and his ability to respond and address your concerns about the execution of the budget. However, the pay issue, that's pay as you earn, that's where employers collect tax from employees, and those taxes are not remitted to government. That is daylight stealing. You deduct from the employee money for government, and the employer keeps the money with himself or herself or with the institution. There should be no negotiation about that. That's daylight theft. I don't know. I think the ministry should look at that seriously. Was that negotiating with others who have default or who default? But those who collect and don't deliver, that's stealing. Honorable Minister, on behalf of both sides of Parliament, we want to thank you, together with your support staff, for a job well done. We will now release you and then we move forward. And honorable members, I want to thank all those who asked questions and also those who intend to ask but could not do so for whatever reasons, and those who listened. I am sure it had been a very fruitful period. Clerk, can we now proceed?
Bill, Order 65, first reading of the Judiciary Officers Remuneration and Other Entitlements Bill 2023 by the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, in accordance with Order 65, only the first reading of the Judiciary Officers Remuneration and Other Entitlements Bill 2023 will be done today. Therefore, I will now invite the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, as the person in charge of the bill, to hand over a copy of the bill to the Clerk of the National Assembly, who will read aloud the short title, whereupon the bills shall be deemed to have been read a first time. Thank you. Honorable Attorney General and Clerk.
Judiciary Officers Remuneration and Other Entitlement Bill 2023.
Honorable members, the bill has been read a first time. The next stage of the Judiciary Officers Remuneration and Other Entitlements Bill 2023 is scheduled for Monday, 11th September 2023, for the person in charge of the bill to move a motion for the second reading in accordance with Order 66-2, which reads, at the conclusion of the proceedings on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of the bill, the next stage may be taken either forthwith or upon a date to be named, providing that second reading shall be taken no sooner than 1 working day after the first reading. Thank you very much, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice. We thank you very much. Clerk, may we proceed?
Motion. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do consider and ratify the Arms Trade Treaty by the Honorable Minister for Defense.
And I have the honor to invite the Honorable Minister of Defense to table his motion. Honorable Minister.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker, honorable members of this August Assembly, my colleague, honorable ministers, members of the media, all protocols duly and respectfully observed. Honorable Speaker, motion to consider and ratify the Arms Trade Treaty. Honorable Speaker, I rise to submit for the consideration and ratification of this August National Assembly the Arms Trade Treaty to join the global efforts to control the illegal proliferation of conventional arms. The ultimate objective of the treaty is to contribute to the preservation of a peaceful, stable, and secured world, safe enough for everyone to pursue and maximize his or her happiness. Preventing deadly arms from falling in the hands of unscrupulous elements who will not hesitate to use them to unleash carnage to maximize their mischievous intention is a national security priority. Honorable Speaker, the Arms Trade Treaty is an international legal instrument that establishes common standards for regulating the trade in conventional arms to prevent illicit arms transfer, diversion, and transshipment. The treaty also is intended to enhance the accountability and transparency of states engaged in the sales and transfer of conventional arms. Honorable Speaker, the objective of the Arms Trade Treaty is to establish common standards for regulation of trade in conventional arms, control of illegal diversion, transfer and transshipment, and to contribute to the reduction of human suffering in conflict-ridden environment caused by the illegal proliferation of conventional arms. Honorable Speaker, the Gambia was invited during the Sierra Leone's presidency of the Arms Trade Treaty Secretariat to attend the 7th Conference of State Parties to the Arms Trade Treaty held in Geneva in August 2021. The President was represented at the conference by my predecessor, Honorable Sir Omar Faye, and the Gambia has since expressed readiness and the commitment to ratify the Arms Trade Treaty to facilitate full treaty compliance. Honorable Speaker, the Gambia has since participated in the 8th and 9th Conference of State Parties to the Arms Trade Treaty held in Geneva, Switzerland, as an observer. This exposure provided my ministry with the unique opportunity to understand the treaty and share experiences on effective treaty implementation and best practices with countries that have already ratified the treaty. Honorable Speaker, my ministry, in consultation with stakeholders, has since 2021 mobilized efforts to facilitate the ratification of the Arms Trade Treaty. The Gambia is the only country in the sub-region that is yet to ratify the treaty. It is gratifying to note that Cabinet approval for ratification of the treaty has been secured. Ratification of the treaty is consistent with the letter and spirit of the ECOWAS Convention
on small arms and light weapons. Both instruments are intended to prevent illegal arms transfer and transshipment, illegal diversion, and the control of illegal arms proliferation to prevent deadly arms from falling in the hands of unscrupulous end users. Honorable Speaker, the treaty is neither a disarmament treaty, nor does it attempt to limit the rights of countries to produce, trade, or stockpile arms for purpose of legitimate trade and self-defense. It merely operates as a mechanism to prevent the arms from falling into the hands of unscrupulous end users who will only use them to maximize their mischievous intention. Honorable Speaker, on this note, I beg to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, any seconder? Honorable Majority Leader and Member for Kantora.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion. Honorable Speaker, I want to sincerely thank the Honorable Minister for Defense for tabling an important instrument, an important ratification before this August Assembly, seeking for the blessing of the Parliament for us to ratify.
Honorable Minister, you can take your seat. You can take the seat here.
For us to ratify the Arms Trade Treaty. Honorable Speaker, one may ask why Gambia is ratifying an arms trade treaty, not being a producer of arms and ammunition. But of course, it is in the interest of peace, preservation of world peace, that Gambia has to join great nations in the quest to preserve peace and tranquility in the world, for us to join other colleagues to ratify this important treaty in controlling the proliferation of weapons, arms, and ammunition. Honorable Speaker, this treaty dated back as early as in the 80s. It is ATT, then NPT. Arms Trade Treaty, NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, to make sure that arms and ammunition does not really fall in the hands of evil doers. Honorable Speaker, this is really long overdue, as Gambia is the only country within the sub-region which did not ratify this particular treaty. It's better to be late than never. Very comprehensive. The spirit and prayers in the treaty is as important as preservation of country sovereignty. If you permit me, I want to read the preamble. Just 3 points. Underline the need to prevent and eradicate illicit trade in conventional arms, prevent diversion of illicit markets for or unauthorized end users. Second, recognizing legitimate political, security, economic, and commercial interests of states in the international trade conventional arms. Reaffirming the sovereign right of states to regulate and control conventional arms exclusively within the territorial pursuant to its legal constitutional system. So it's really helping as a nation, as a country, not to be used as a dumping ground, not to be used as the vagaries of international markets, whereby harboring terrorist attacks, terrorism's jihadist group movements, having access to arms and ammunition. When Gambia becomes a member, we are also aiding and helping preservation of world peace. And of course, interestingly, it is in line with ECOWAS conventions on arms and ammunition. At the region, we as members and signatory of ECOWAS institution we have also ratified a treaty in this like manner. So I don't think this is really delayed time of Parliament, but I'm calling on all assembly to hastily or to go through the thing to give their blessing to this important document. As I said, Honorable Speaker, it's only judged toward preservation of world peace, and Gambia is known for a peace-loving nation. We will not hesitate to add our footprint, to add our stamp, to make sure we also join the global, members in the globe in the preservation and fight against terrorism in the world. Gambia will not be used as a dumping ground. Gambia will not be used as a means of trafficking illicit arms and ammunition within the sub-region to make this country or this region or the world unstable. So therefore, Honourable Minister, is a right move in the right direction. It's better to be late than never, but this is long overdue. This is really long overdue. This should have been tabled here before this assembly than now. However, we are happy that you brought this kind of treaty, and we are glad. I recall again, reiterate support from both sides of the assembly to really ratify this treaty. Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, for indulgence.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kantora. Honorable members, I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly do consider the Arms Trade Treaty Agreement, ATT. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it.
Motion, Honorable
Who said no? Can we record him?
No.
Who? No, no. Who?
Motion, Honorable Speaker.
Which member?
Member for Bakau.
Member for Bakau?
Yes.
You are not in favor of ratifying this motion of controlling this small arms movement within the sub-region. No, I'm saying the motion I put forward, the question I put forward is those who are in support of the motion.
I am in support of the motion anyway.
For its consideration.
Exactly. That one is okay.
Then why did you say no?
Yes, I want to come up with a motion. I want to counter the motion.
Honorable members, I will now open the floor for any honorable member to take part in the debate. I was hearing something like motion somewhere. Who? Sani Mentoring.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Motion on 53K. That a motion agreed by the Speaker to be a matter of urgency. I don't think it will be fair enough for us to debate or to ratify this document today when we actually have the document today. And this is a very important document once we are dealing with the security of this country. Thank you. So we can refer it. I suppose we refer it to a later date. Thank you.
What is your motion?
That we refer this to a later date, to be referred to a later date. Thank you.
One is to defer the debate on the motion to a later date.
Yes.
That's your motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
Honorable Speaker, motion. You cannot have two motions when we have to deal with this one. There is this motion, honorable members, that because the documents were received late and attaching importance to the document, the member for Sani Mentoring is moving a motion. Honorable members, that we defer it to another date for debate. Any secondment? Anybody who wants to second it? Any seconder? But please, let's settle this one. If there is a motion, there must be a seconder. The motion from Sani Mentoring?
Yes, seconded.
Honorable member for Bakau?
Yes, seconded.
It has been moved and seconded. Yes, you motion. Before we do that, I think we have to put a question. Then if you accept, we continue and take the motion as it is. If you reject, we listen to others. Can we? You said what? Honorable member, how can you modify somebody's motion?
Speaker.
No, it has to be two things. Honorable members, I was just being briefed by the office of the clerk. We want to strengthen some few things. Yes, some members might have received their documents today because members were on recess. And therefore, if you put some documents in their pigeonholes last week, they will not be here. The other thing is, I am told that these documents were here during the last session, that's June. That's the time when the Ministry of Defense submitted these documents. Until I learn. I am just putting facts to you, honorable member. Please. This is not about opinion, honorable member. This is about facts. The Ministry of Defense submitted these documents on time. That's since June. The office of the clerk, as usual, so far it will not be tabled during that period. And more often than not, when these documents are circulated, by the time they are tabled in the next session, some members lose the documents. They therefore decided to wait until just before the session to put it into the pigeonholes, which they did about a week ago. During the course of last week. So this is the situation. Yesterday it could not be yesterday because yesterday is Sunday. We don't come to work. So what we are saying, what I'm trying to put forward is, one, the relevant institution has submitted the documents on time. the claim of the mover of the motion that some of them have received the documents today is relevant. Now, with these facts, I will now put the question on her motion, which has been seconded, that because of the fact that members just received, some members just received their copies, and the importance attached to the motion, she is moving that the debate on it be delayed to another time. That's the motion. If those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those not in favor of the motion, please say no. Eh? Honorable members.
I call for division.
Where someone calls for a division, which member is calling for a division? Member
Sabasanya.
All right, honorable members, let's be on the fast track. Honorable members, the motion is the documents are just received and they are important, and therefore just delay it to another date for debate to enable members to read it. That's the motion. If you are in support of the motion, please raise your hand.
Speaker, sorry, observation, please. Observation, please. No, I am not in adverse to what is going on, but we have to work by agenda and time. Do you mean for her, if it means for her to amend her motion to say the debate be referred to tomorrow or next tomorrow, then we'll have to agree on that. Yes.
Honorable members, it looks like with a slight amendment to the motion, it can carry the vote. Now, the majority leader, I think you are talking about the time when it will be debated. From the feedbacks I have from the table office, it can be debated tomorrow because we have limited business tomorrow. It could be debated tomorrow. If the motion is agreed. So now the question, no more interruptions, honorable members. You either accept or you reject. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your tags. Get it up. Honorable member.
No,
Honorable Speaker.
May I observe?
Not in favor, your tags up.
Honorable Speaker.
No observations now.
No, before you make a ruling, please.
No observations now. We have already voted on it. So those against the motion, your tags up.
No, it's a rule of procedure, Honorable Speaker. Before you make a ruling, please. Please. Honorable, please.
What is he saying?
No. Yes, yes. The original mover doesn't make any amendment for debate for tomorrow. You understand? We allow him to make the amendment before Honorable Majority Leader will do it because he's not the mover. The mover is Simon Teng.
So please, we have done the first part of the vote. Those against the motion, please raise your tags. Count.
Honorable Speaker.
You know.
Honorable Speaker.
Oh, who is calling? Sabak? Sabak Sanjal?
Yes, sir. Honorable Speaker.
What is your problem?
I think the honorable member for Sani Mentereng moved a motion, and we are making some amendments to that motion, and that is currently what we were voting for. Please allow me to learn. I'm suggesting that if you may...
Honorable member, overruled. The motion was moved and I explained it in detail. And then we voted, and then the majority leader made an explanation as to what he wanted to be done. I said to him it could be done because tomorrow we have less business. We could include it.
Yes, I agree.
This is what I said. But that's not amending the motion. She is saying we adjourn it to another date, a better date. Not today. That's what she said.
Yes.
And that's the motion we voted on.
No, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, it's a different one.
I think it's a different one.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I have not amended any motion, nor has the mover amended any motion, and therefore we have voted. And the results of the votes are yes, 30, no, 2. So the ayes have it. So, honorable members, we would defer the debate on the motion to another date as per her motion, but we may defer it to tomorrow. We will ask the table office and the clerk's office to ensure that we have less business tomorrow, so we can include the debate so that members will try to read more on this thing, find out, do some research, and you can participate. I think everybody is okay with that. Pardon? So, honorable members, so far we have deferred the debate on the motion. I now put the question. As I said, honorable members, we have concluded on the fact that this thing be deferred as per the motion. And that I think the clerk's office, under my chairmanship, will call for the ABC to meet so that we can include it in tomorrow's agenda. I think that will be okay for us. So I think the ABC would meet tomorrow. What time?
Speaker.
May I ask ABC members of the ABC committee, can we meet after today, after here? Huh? We can, yeah, immediately after. Let's say when we close from here, 10 minutes later, we are in the committee room. Huh? Can we meet? Yes? Member for Woolly East? Yes, you raised your hand. Okay, we are in agreement. Okay, so we meet immediately after here. Honorable members, somebody was trying to say something. All right, honorable members, I now put the question. Be resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Tuesday, 5th September 2023. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Let me thank the Honorable Minister and his team. The Assembly now stands adjourned until Tuesday, 5th September 2023 at 10 a.m. prompt.